If you're listening to this right now, I want you to give yourself permission to do just one thing. Stay. Stay for a few minutes. Stay for a story that isn't loud or demanding. A story that won't chase you, won't judge you, and won't ask you to be anything other than a tired human, looking for a gentle place to rest. And if you feel your body already sinking a little deeper into your pillow, that's perfect. You don't need to fight that. This story is made to hold you while you drift. Tonight, we're going somewhere soft. Not to a battlefield of history, not to a stage of politics, but to the quiet homes where to human beings. Aristotle, Onassis and Jacqueline Kennedy once tried to soothe hearts that had been broken in ways the world could never fully see. Before we begin, if you want this moment to be only yours, you can close your eyes now, or soften your gaze, or simply let the ceiling blur above you. Whatever helps you stay here, with me, with your breath, with the gentleness of this night. Because this story is not really about mansions, yachts, or islands. It is about what it happens to a person after life takes more than it gives. It is about how two souls, both marked by loss that arrived too early, searched for a place, any place, where the world finally stopped, paid asking them to be strong. Think about that for a moment. Maybe you've felt it too. A moment in life where you just wanted one room, one window, one quiet evening, where the noise of everything you've been carrying could fade into something softer. If that feels familiar, then you and Jackie, you and Aristotle, are not as far apart as you might think. People remember them for their wealth, their fame, their beautiful photographs. But hidden under all of that is something profoundly human. A boy who stood on a burning dock in Smyrna, watching the world he knew disappear in smoke, and a young woman who held her husband's head in her lap while cameras captured her grief, for the whole world to replay endlessly. To people from two different worlds, both learning the same painful truth, that even the strongest hearts have a breaking point, and so their lives became a quiet search for places that could hold those broken pieces without shattering them further. Tonight, I want to take you into those places, not as a historian, not as a journalist, but as someone walking beside you in the dark, speaking softly so the story doesn't disturb your sleep. We will step into the London apartment where Jackie first found the courage to breathe a full breath again. We will wander through the New York sanctuary that caught her when the world became too heavy. We will touch the warm stones of Scorpios Island and listen to the waves that once lulled her children to sleep. We will stand on the deck of a quiet yacht that once held more secrets than any palace, and we will walk through fields and wind in the places Jackie chose, not because they were grand, but because they were safe, but not yet. For now, I want you to simply imagine this: a soft night, a gentle light, a quiet breath, your body relaxing without needing permission, and somewhere, in a different time, Jackie standing at a window, in a silent London room, holding a cup of tea with both hands, letting the rain on the glass say everything her heart was too tired to say aloud. That is where our journey truly begins. A small moment, a quiet room, a woman trying to remember what peace feels like. If you're ready, take one slow breath in and let it fall out gently. We'll step into London together now, very softly, very slowly, as if we re-walking into a memory that wants to be remembered without ever being loud. London at night has a way of quieting itself, softening the edges of its own history. And as we return to that moment, to the rain, to the warm lamps glowing behind tall windows, I want you to imagine the city breathing slowly, just like you are now, under the pale shimmer of streetlights. Grosvenor Square looks almost unreal. The trees sway gently, the pavement glistens with a thin film of rain, and the whole neighborhood feels wrapped in a blanket of old, dignified silence. This is where Aristotle Onassis bought an apartment, not to show off, not to impress, but to create a space where the world could not intrude. And for Jackie Kennedy, that space would become a kind of emotional shelter, a small, unexpected harbor door in years when she could barely trust the ground beneath her feet. When you step inside 47 Grosvenor Square, the first thing you notice is the warmth. Not heat, but warmth, the kind you feel in rooms where people have cried softly and sat quietly and tried their best to breathe again. The floors creak faintly underfoot, as though the wood remembers every step that has crossed it. The air holds a scent of polished oak and the faint trace of fresh flowers, the kind Jackie preferred. Soft whites, nothing too bold, nothing that demanded attention. The drawing room is spacious, but never overwhelming. Even the high ceilings seem to bow slightly, as if they understand that visitors here need gentleness more than grandeur. There is an armchair by the tall window, upholstered in a muted fabric that feels like a whisper to the fingertips. Jackie often sat there when she visited London, her shoulders finally dropping, her hands wrapped around a warm teacup, her breath steadying in the kind of stillness she rarely found anywhere else. When she looked out onto the square, the view was calm, lamps glowing softly through the mist, trees holding the last drops of rain, the quiet geometry of old London buildings standing steadfast in the night. It was here, in moments like that Jackie allowed herself to feel something she had been denying for a long time: safety. Not the kind guarded by Secret Service agents or fortified by wealth, but a much smaller, gentler kind. The safety of knowing that for a few hours, no one expected anything from her. On some evenings, Aristotle would hold gatherings in this apartment, not the loud, glittering kind people associate with his name, but intimate meetings, quiet conversations over crystal glasses, soft low, to under modest chandeliers, the kind of company that sits comfortably in a room without trying to fill it. Even then, even in a room with others, Jackie always found a corner of peace. She would listen more than she spoke, smiling politely, her eyes drifting often to the balcony. The longest and most graceful balcony in the entire building. Sometimes she slipped away for a moment, stepping outside into the London night. The cool air greeted her like an old friend, brushing her cheeks, smoothing the noise inside her thoughts. From there, she could see the whole of the square, its quiet paths, the gentle glow of windows across the way, the soft halo of light resting on wet leaves. She would close her eyes for a moment, and in that stillness, she was the widow of a fallen president, or the wife of a Greek magnate, or the subject of headlines. She was simply Jackie, a woman with a tired heart, looking for a place to rest, and the apartment, in its quiet loyalty, gave her that rest without question. Aristotle understood this more deeply than people gave him credit for. Though he was a man known for volume, ambition, and the ability to fill every space he entered, here he walked softly, here his voice lowered, here he allowed silence to be a companion, rather than something to conquer. Because he, too, carried a pain that had an the fully healed. He knew what it was like to lose a home, a world, a sense of belonging. And perhaps that's why he wanted this place to be one of softness, not spectacle. Sometimes, late at night, when guests had left and the square had grown even quieter, Jackie and Aristotle would sit together, not as icons of history, not as headlines, but as two people who had lived through storms that left them both fragile in different ways. They didn't always speak, they didn't need to. Some silences are conversations of their own. You can almost picture it now, the glow of a small lamp, the soft tick of a clock, the gentle rhythm of heartbeats, finally allowed to slow down, As you lie here listening, letting your breath fall deeper, you might feel the same softness Jackie felt on those nights. That unexpected permission to let go, to rest, to simply exist without performing. London held her gently, and this apartment, with its warm wood and quiet corners, became one of the first places where her grief loosened, just enough to let peace enter. Now, we'll leave this sanctuary behind, but not the feeling it gave us. We'll carry its softness with us as we travel across the ocean to a home high above Central Park, a place where Jackie rebuilt her life. One quiet evening at a time. When you're ready, we'll go there together. New York is a city that rarely sleeps, yet somehow, high above the noise and the lights, Jackie Kennedy found a place where her soul finally could. As we travel now, from the soft rain of London to the glowing skyline of Manhattan, I want you to picture the shift in sound, from gentle drizzle on old stone to the distant hum of taxis moving far below. But even in this bustling city, there exists a pocket of quiet so comforting that it feels almost unreal. That place is 1045th Avenue, a limestone tower standing with quiet confidence, facing Central Park like a guardian of old New York. Not flashy, not loud, just timeless, the kind of timeless that makes you exhale, even before you walk through the door. When Jackie bought her apartment on the 15th floor, she wasn't searching for luxury. She'd had more than enough of that. What she needed was a sanctuary, a room where she could sit with her grief without being consumed by it. As the elevator doors opened on her floor, the air changed. It was softer somehow, as if the walls themselves understood that this was a place where a wounded heart was trying to heal. Inside, the apartment unfolded slowly, like a warm embrace rather than an architectural statement. 15 rooms, but each one arranged with such tenderness that even silence felt welcome there. The entrance gallery was spacious, but not intimidating. The black and white marble tiles carried a history of footsteps that moved from sorrow toward resilience. Every corner seemed to whisper, "It's all right, take your time." The living room, Jackie's favorite place, was bathed in soft, natural light that poured through wide windows overlooking the park below. The mornings were golden, the afternoons silver, and the evenings wrapped everything in the soft blue of twilight. Jackie arranged the room, not as a showcase, but as a refuge. Cream-colored sofas, pillows lightly worn at the edges, and books everywhere, books stacked on tables, lined along shelves, resty, NG on armrests, waiting to be read or simply held. Sometimes she would sit cross-legged on the sofa, a blanket draped over her knees, her fingers tracing the edge of a page without turning it. Outside, the city pulsed with life, honking, shouting, rushing, but up here, the only sound was the quiet rustle of leaves from Central Park and the gentle hum of a world she was learning to rejoin at her own pace. On certain evenings, you could find her standing by the window, one hand resting lightly on the glass. Down below, joggers circled the reservoir, the very reservoir that would one day carry her name. But back then, it was simply a place she looked toward. When her heart felt heavy, sometimes the tears came quietly, and she let them. In this room, she didn't need to hide. In this room, she wasn't a symbol of elegance or a face in newspapers. She was simply a mother, a widow, a woman trying to piece together the fragments of a life that had been shattered in an instant. But grief wasn't the only thing that lived in this apartment. There was laughter too. Carolyn studying at the dining table, John Jr. running down the hallway with his socks sliding on the polished floor, Jackie calling after him with playful exasperation. Their footsteps softened the rooms, made them warm, made them human. The fireplace in the library was another anchor of her healing. How many nights did she sit there, a book open in her hands, the fire crackling softly, casting golden light over the shelves? She read history, art, poetry, story, that reminded her that pain has existed in every century, and so has the strength to move forward. On the walls hung memories, photos from her youth, drawings by her children, letters kept for comfort, and in a quiet corner, framed with simple elegance, hung a portrait of John F. Kennedy. Not as a president, not as a public figure, but as the man she had loved, the man she had lost, the man whose memory she honored, not with grandeur, but with gentleness. This apartment was not a retreat from the world. It was a bridge back to it. Slowly, carefully, Jackie rebuilt herself. Here, she worked from her writing desk, editing manuscripts late into the evening, finding solace in stories, and purpose in words. Sometimes, friends visited. They spoke softly, laughed quietly, and drank tea together, like ordinary people, sharing ordinary moments. Moments that, in truth, felt extraordinary, because they were peaceful. The nights were the calmest of all, when the city lights shimmered beyond the windows, and the sounds of Manhattan faded to a distant murmur. The apartment felt like it floated, a sanctuary suspended above the world. If you listen close, now, you might almost hear it, the subtle hum of the city far below, the whisper of a turning page, the steady breath of someone who has finally allowed herself to rest. Take a slow breath with me here, in and out, just as Jackie once did, in the quiet safety of this room, because now, as we gently leave Fifth Avenue behind, we'll follow her footsteps to a place far from the city, a place where the sun shines warm on the water, where the air is scented with sea and pine, and where the waves themselves seem to speak. We're going to Scorpios, the island where love, pain, healing, and history all meet the shore, in the softest way imaginable. Whenever you're ready, we'll go there together. Take a moment. Let your breath settle, let your shoulders soften, and imagine the faint scent of the sea drifting toward you on a warm, gentle breeze. We are leaving the tall buildings of New York behind now, sailing slowly into a different kind of quiet, the kind that only islands can hold. As the city fades, the hum of traffic dissolves, and all that remains is the soft rhythm of waves lapping against the hull of an unseen boat. Listen to that riff, for a moment, in and out, like the ocean breathing. Ahead of us lies Scorpios, a small, unlikely kingdom that Aristotle Onassis once poured his heart into, long before anyone imagined it would be. Ecom, one of the most whispered about places in the world, but tonight, we won't look at Scorpios through the lens of wealth. We'll see it the way Jackie did, as a place where the world finally went quiet, and where grief softened under the sun. The boat drifts closer to the shore, its engine humming gently, barely disturbing the stillness of the water. From afar, Scorpios looks almost shy, pine trees leaning toward the sea, golden sand curving in soft arcs, the water so clear that even the sunlight seems to pause, just to admire it. When Jackie first stepped onto his island, she wore a wide-brimmed hat, her hair pulled back by the wind, but beneath the elegance, beneath the iconic sunglasses, was a heart still fragile from loss, still learning how to exist in a world that had taken so much from her. Aristotle had bought Scorpios when it was nothing more than a rugged, dusty piece of land, not for glory, not for headlines, but because he wanted a place where he could build something that could never be taken away from him again. For a boy who had once watched his home burn to ashes, an island felt like a promise of permanence. And for Jackie, who had lost not just a husband, but a sense of safety, The island felt like a promise of peace. Let's walk its paths now. Slowly, barefoot, feeling the warmth of the earth beneath us. The air here is soft, in a way that cities never manage, salt and pine and sunlight blending into something almost healing. You can hear the sea even when you don't see it. Steady hush, a gentle exhale, as if the island itself is breathing with you. Follow the narrow trail that winds through olive trees and wildflowers. Their leaves shimmer in the breeze, silver on one side, green on the other, like little mirrors reflecting the sky. Eventually, the path opens to a house painted in a gentle shade of rose, the pink house. This was Jackie's refuge, small, simple, nothing like the grand homes she had known before, but perhaps that was exactly why she loved it. Inside, the rooms were bright, with sunlight slipping across the floors. The furniture was light and modest, chosen not for status, but for comfort. A small writing desk stood near a window, where the sea stretched out endlessly, glittering under the long, lazy afternoons. Here, Jackie would see tea, with a notebook open in front of her. Though she often wrote very little, some days, her pen barely touched the page. Some days, she simply watched the waves, coming and going, as if they were carrying her thoughts out to sea, and bringing them back, a little softer each time. Carolyn and John Jr. played on the beach, their laughter drifting through the open windows like a warm breeze. Jackie watched them with a tenderness that only a mother who has survived heartbreak could ever truly understand. Sometimes she walked along the shoreline with them, her feet inking gently in the warm sand, collecting shells, tracing the outline of small footprints that the waves would soon erase. The island protected them from the cameras, from the public eye, from the expectations that had followed Jackie since the moment she stepped into the White House. Here, she was free to breathe, free to rest, free to grieve without eruption. But Scorpios was not just Jackie's sanctuary, it was Aristotle's as well. When evening settled across the water, and the sky deepened into soft purples and blues, you could sometimes find him standing alone by the water's edge. The waves washed over his feet as he looked toward the horizon. A man who had conquered oceans, yet carried a loneliness that no empire could erase. He built this island to be a world of his own, but like all humans, he could not keep sorrow away forever. Still, on nights like this, when the stars softened above the water and the breeze, he was gentle enough to soothe even the heaviest heart. Scorpios held him the way a home should. Many decades later, visitors say the island still feels alive. Not haunted, not heavy, but quietly a as if the land remembers the footsteps of the people who sought refuge here. And tonight, as you listen, as your breath slows, and your body sinks deeper into rest, the island holds you too. Oh, let the waves carry your thoughts the way they once carried Jackie's. Let the warmth of the sun stay on your skin just a little longer. Let the hush of the water wrap around you like a blanket. Because when we leave Scorpios, we will drift onto the deck of a ship that once sailed these same waters. A place where late-night conversations, soft music and moonlit reflections created a floating G-world all of its own. The Cristino awaits, and when you're ready, we'll step aboard together into a night even quieter than the sea itself. Before we step onto the Cristino, take one more slow breath in and out, as softly as the tide brushing the shore of Scorpios, because ahead of us is a different kind of quiet. The quiet that lives on the open sea, where the world feels bigger, but somehow gentler too. The Cristino doesn't appear all at once. It emerges slowly from the evening light, its white hull reflecting the shimmer of the water, its windows glowing softly, like lanterns guiding weary hearts home. Once a warship, now a floating sanctuary. The Christina O had been transformed with a level of tenderness that revealed how much Aristotle Onassis wanted this place to hold more than luxury. He wanted it to hold memories, moments, and the fragile parts of life that people rarely show on land. As you step onto the deck, the wood beneath your feet feels warm, as if it has absorbed years of sun, years of footsteps, years of stories whispered under starlit skies. The sea stretches endlessly around you, a wide, calming darkness, but it isn't frightening. Not tonight. It's like a quilt, soft and infinite, tucking the yacht gently into place. There's a breeze here that doesn't rush or push. It brushes lightly over your skin, carrying the faint scent of salt and jasmine from the arrangements Jackie loved during her evenings aboard. She had walked these very decks, barefoot sometimes, her hair lifted slightly by the wind. Our thoughts finally allowed to drift, the way the sea itself drifts, unhurried, unforced, unbroken, inside the grand salon. The light is low and warm, reflecting softly off polished surfaces, not to dazzle, but to soothe. A chandelier glows above, each crystal catching just enough light to shimmer without demanding attention. This place was crafted to make even silence feel like company. I'd imagine Jackie here, on a quiet night, leaning back on a velvet sofa, her legs curled beneath her, listening to the faint murmur of conversation in the next room. Aristotle speaking softly with a guest, the sound carried gently through half-open doors. She loved moments like these, moments where she could just exist in a beautiful space, without the weight of cameras or headlines pressing down on her. Sometimes she would slip out to the famous Ari's bar, a room glowing with golden lamps and lined with dark, glossy wood. But the most magical nights were not the glamorous ones, they were the quiet ones. The nights when the yacht rocked gently and everything felt softened by the rhythm of the waves. Outside, the pool shimmered under moonlight, one of the world's first swimming pools that could transform into a dance floor. But on these calm nights, there was no music, no parties, no dancing, just the soft reflection of stars rippling across the water like a painting slowly moving in the breeze. Jackie sometimes sat at the pool's edge, dangling her feet into the cool water, watching the moon break into pieces with every gentle wave. Her children slept inside, safe in their small cabins, the steady hum of the engines acting as a lullaby that soothed even the deepest worries. Aristotle, too, had quiet moments on this ship, moments the world rarely saw. Late at night, he would stand alone at the bow, cigar unlit, just holding it, looking out toward the dark horizon. For a man known for ambition, these were either rare times when he allowed the truth to surface, that even the most powerful people can feel the loneliest in the world. The sea heard those confessions, the stars watched them, the yacht held them. Tonight, you're sharing in that same quiet, not the loneliness, but the comfort that follows when someone lets their guard down, just enough to breathe fully again. As you explore the yacht, the rooms melt into one another with soft edges and warm shadows. The library smells of old books and sea breeze. The dining room holds echoing memories of whispered conversations and half-finished shed stories. The corridors feel like gently lit tunnels leading not just to bedrooms, but to moments of peace. And then there are the cabins, their beds low and wide, their linens cool and smooth, their windows framing the ocean as if the sea itself were tucking you in. On nights when the air was especially warm, Jackie slept with the curtains open, letting the moonlight spill quietly onto the floor beside her bed. She said it made her feel as if the world was watching over her, instead of chasing her. You can imagine her now, eyes closed, hands resting loosely on her stomach, her breath rising and falling, in time with the waves. She once told a friend that the Christina O felt alive, not because of its luxury, but because it carried every joy and sorrow of the peep who stepped aboard. It was a vessel of memories, floating gently through time, and as you relax deeper, listening to the imagined hum of the ship and the soft echo of water against its sides, you're drifting into that memory too, becoming a quiet part of a story carried by the sea. Now, let the ocean take one slow breath with you, in and out, carrying us toward the next chapter, a chapter not on the water, but on land, where the earth itself became a place of healing. We're going to Jackie's horse farm, to quiet mornings, mist-covered fields, and the soft rhythm of hooves moving across the grass before we leave the sea behind. Take one last slow breath, feel the soft weight of the ocean in your chest, and let it out gently as we drift toward land. Not a city, not a palace, not a place of marble or chandeliers, but a quiet stretch of earth. Green, open, untouched by cameras, uninterested in fame. This is Peapack Gladstone, New Jersey. Place where mornings come softly, wrapped in pale mist, and the only sounds are birds greeting the sun, and the patient rhythm of hooves on damp grass. It was here, in 1974, that Jackie Kennedy owners, -1 bought a small horse farm, a modest wooden house, a barn that smelled of hay and warm saddle leather, and fields that stretched just far enough to make the world feel gentle again. She didn't choose this place for its status. She chose it because it whispered the kind of quiet that only nature can offer. A quiet that doesn't erase pain, but holds it softly, like cupped hands catching falling water. As we step onto the farm, the first light of morning spreads across the fields in long, golden strokes. The grass glitters with dew, each droplet trembling like a tiny crystal, balancing on its blade. You can almost hear it, the soft crunch of earth beneath your feet, the distant whinny of a horse waking, the slow rustle of leaves as the wind stretches its limbs for the day. Jackie loved mornings here. She would rise before anyone else, sometimes before the sun, wrap herself in a simple sweater, and step outside barefoot, feeling the coolness of the ground soothe the heat of her thoughts. The air tasted different on this farm. Clean, earthy, honest. There was no perfume of cities, no tension of public life, just the scent of pine, fresh hay, and the faint sweetness of wildflowers that grew along the edges of the fields. At the barn, her horse would nudge her gently as she approached, a quiet greeting between two beings who didn't need words to understand each other. Jackie would run her hand along the horse's warm neck, feeling the slow, steady rise of breath beneath its skin. It grounded her, reminded her that life, even after loss, continues in simple, rhythmic ways. On some mornings, she would saddle the horse herself, tightening the straps with practiced ease before leading it out into the open field. The ride always began slow, hooves sinking softly into the earth, the world still waking, light spilling across the horizon like a whispered promise. As the horse picked up speed, Jackie felt something inside her loosen, a knot of grief that had been tied too tightly for too long. Wind brushed her face, lifting stray strands of hair. Trees blurred into streaks of green, and for a few minutes each day, she was simply a woman moving through the world, not someone defined by tragedy, not someone living under the microscope, but someone freed. Home, she once said, was not about escape. It was about moments like these, moments where the weight of memory felt lighter than the weight of the morning fog. After a ride, Jackie often walked the trails on foot, slow, meditative steps through woods softly lit by the rising sun. She loved the way sunlight filtered through the leaves above, breaking into dancing patterns on the ground. Sometimes she collected wildflowers, braiding them with easy fingers. Sometimes she sat on a wooden fence and watched the horses graze, their movements slow and peaceful, almost hip. Not I see. There were afternoons, too, when her children visited, Carolyn laughing as she tried a gentle trot, John Jr. chasing dogs across the field, their voices carrying, in small, joyful echoes, across the open land. Jackie would sit in a lawn chair, a book open, though she rarely read more than a few lines. Mostly she watched her children run, watched the clouds drift, watched the day unfold, without rush, without expectation. In the evenings, the farm slipped into an even deeper stillness. The sky turned lavender, then deep blue, and stars scattered themselves generously overhead, far more than she could ever see in the city. Inside the house, lamps with soft yellow shades glowed warmly. The wooden floors creaked gently as Jackie moved through the rooms, making tea, opening windows, letting the night breeze carry, in its cool, quiet scent. She often paused by the old kitchen table, a simple, unpolished wood piece that felt familiar in a way luxury never did. Here, she could breathe without performing. Here, she could let silence speak without fearing it. Some nights, she walked back outside after everyone had gone to sleep. Fireflies blinked in the tall elm grass, their tiny lights flickering like thoughts drifting gently in the mind before sleep takes over. She would stand there, barefoot, hands tucked into her sleeves, the cool night air tinting her cheeks, and look up. The stars reminded her that life extends beyond grief, that love changes shape, but never really disappears, and that the world is quieter than we allow ourselves to believe. On this farm, Jackie wasn't healing in grand, cinematic ways. She was healing slowly, through morning rides, through the smell of hay, through the warmth of a horse's breath, through the patience of nature surrounding her on all sides. And as you lie here listening, breathing softly, letting the images drift in and out, you're sharing that quiet with her, feeling the same peace that once settled over these fields like a soft blanket of morning mist. Now, as we leave the farm behind, carry that peace with you, hold it gently, because our next journey will take us to a place even quieter than this, a place where the sea and land meet, where sunsets glow across miles of untouched dunes, and where Jackie finally found her truest sense of home. Redgate Farm awaits, and when you're ready, we'll walk there together into the quietest chapter of all. When you're ready, take one more slow breath and let the quiet warmth of the horse farm fade gently into the background. Ahead of us now is a coastline, not dramatic or wild, but soft, low, and endlessly patient. The kind of coastline that waits for you to arrive at your own pace. This is Martha's Viney, and at the far southwestern edge of the island, where the Atlantic stretches wide and blue, and the wind smells faintly of pine and salt, sits a place Jackie Kennedy Onassis loved more than any. The Redgate Farm, a home not built for show, but for breathing, for healing, for remembering, for forgetting, for simply being. As we step onto the long dirt road leading toward the house, the world begins to hush itself. Trees arc gently overhead, their leaves filtering the sunlight into soft, gold-dusted beams that sway across the path. Like slow-moving waves, the air is quieter here, quieter even than the horse farm. The breeze moves like a whisper across tall grasses, carrying a rhythm that feels almost like the rise and fall of sleep. Redgate Farm wasn't always this peaceful. When Jackie first bought it in 1979, it was nothing more than a rugged sheep farm with a small hunting cabin and acres of wild land. stretching toward the ocean. But when he stood here for the first time, the wind tugging lightly at her sweater, the sound of waves echoing from far below, she knew instinctively that she had found the last place her heart needed to rest. She imagined a home, built not to sit on the land, but to belong to it, and so the transformation began. Let's walk toward the house now, the gravel crunching faintly underfoot, the light shifting gently as clouds drift lazily overhead. The main house is simple, whitewashed with gabled roofs and wide windows that seem to invite the horizon inside. It doesn't tower, it doesn't demand attention. It merely stands with the quiet confidence of a place that knows it doesn't have to impress anyone. Inside, everything feels open. Sunlit rooms, wooden floors warm and bare feet, and the faint smell of sea breeze carried through. Windows left purposely ajar. Jackie kept the decor modest, choosing comfort over luxury. Soft fabrics, handmade pottery, books in every room, family photographs tucked into corners where sunlight could warm them. She used to say that Redgate didn't need perfection. It needed sincerity. You can almost see her here now, standing barefoot in the kitchen, a loose linen shirt draped over her shoulders, pouring tea into a simple mug. As the wind flutters the curtains, she pauses, glances out the window, and smiles softly at the sight of the ocean stretching endlessly beyond the fields outside. The land is alive in a slow, peaceful way. There are blueberry bushes, a vegetable garden, rows of wildflowers, planted with the help of her friend Bunny Melon. Walking through these fields feels like walking through a lullaby. Birdsong drifts lightly overhead, and the grass sways in a rhythm, gentle enough to lull even the heaviest thoughts into quiet rest. Follow the path with Emmy down toward the dunes, where the ocean meets the sky. The sound of waves grows louder with each step, but never harsh. It's a steady, soothing pulse, like the earth's own heartbeat, whispering beneath the wind. Jackie loved walking here at dusk. She would stand at the water's edge, her feet sinking softly into cool sand, watching the sun melt quietly into shades of rose, amber, and lavender. Sometimes she walked alone, sometimes with her children, sometimes with her dogs, who ran happily beside her, chasing nothing in particular, but always she walked with a sense of gratitude for a place that asked nothing of her except to be present at Redgate. She did not have to be a symbol, she did not have to be composed, she did not have to explain her grief or hide it. Here, she was simply Jackie, a woman who loved nature, who cherished quiet, who found comfort in watching the tide move in and out, as if it were carrying her memories in gentle circles inside the house. Evenings were the softest time of all. She would light small lamps, their glow warm and golden, flickering quietly across the room. Sometimes she read, sometimes she wrote, sometimes she simply sat, listening to the wind brush against the walls of the house, like a lullaby written just for her. When her grandchildren were born, they too came to Redgate, running across the fields, chasing shadows in the grass, discovering the same magic that had grounded their grandmother. Even now, long after Jackie left this world, people say Redgate Farm still carries her presence, not as a ghost, but as a feeling, a softness, a stillness, an understanding that this was the place where she finally allowed herself to feel whole again. As you lie here listening, eyes growing heavy, breath falling into its own slow rhythm, the spirit of Redgate settles around you too. It invites you to rest, to let go, to be gentle with yourself, to trust that healing doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. It can happen quietly, in the soft spaces between breaths, and so, our journey through the homes of Onassis and Jackie finds its final chapter here, not in wealth, not in grandeur, but in the simple truth that every heart deserves a quiet place to land. Take one last slow breath with me, in and out. Let the peace of Redgate Farm wrap around you like evening light over the ocean. Tonight, you are safe, you are allowed to rest, and the world can wait until morning.